earlier this week, we found out that Mick Mulvaney had to find a legal justification for Trump freezing military aid to Ukraine after the fact. So Trump does the freeze, Mulvaney realizes, there might be a whistleblower complaint. We need to find some sort of legal justification. And then he goes to the Office of Management and Budget in an effort to come up with a legal justification. Now we're learning, based on testimony that happened in a closed door hearing, that there were 2 officials within the OMB who resigned as a result of what was going on behind the scenes. And I want to be very clear about something. Donald Trump basically lifted the freeze on that military aid after, let me repeat, after he found out that there was gonna be a formal whistleblower complaint filed against him, okay? So I just wanna make sure everyone is on the same page when it comes to that timeline. Now with that said, let me give you some more information about this testimony. So Mark Sandy, who is a career official with the OMB, revealed he testified in the impeachment inquiry but did not name the employees in question. So he said one worked in the OMB legal division and described that person as having, quote, a dissenting opinion about how the security assistance to Ukraine could be held up in light of the Impoundment Control Act, which limits the ability of the executive branch to change spending decisions made by Congress. Remember, Congress, in a bipartisan vote, voted to provide Ukraine with this military funding, okay? More than $400 million. And so the president can't just unilaterally decide what to do with that money. If it's appropriated by Congress, it needs to go to the appropriate place. And Trump put a freeze to it because he wanted to dig up dirt on his political rival, because he can't win based on his ideas because he's a failure and a loser. Go ahead, Brett.
So yeah, and the pattern is he kept finding ways to ratchet up pressure. And a very important date is April 25th. April 25th is when Joe Biden said that he wanted to get into the race. And he announced that I think it was April 25th, wanted to get into the race. And after that, magically, we're interested in corruption and Burisma. This whole process of aid, President Trump has been president for multiple years, 3 years. This process has happened multiple times. Ukraine has been developing in the way that it's fighting corruption. Only this time, and only after Biden is in the race, do we suddenly start talking about Burisma. And specifically, you've got this guy Sandy, who you just saw, and this other guy Duffy, who is the political appointee. So you've got some guy whose job it is to be the guy in the bureau who's like, all right, we know rules, we apply rules, we do all this stuff. Then you got this guy Duffy, who Trump's like, Duffy's my guy. Sandy says there's rules about what you can do with military aid. And he literally basically just says, I'm gonna check the rules. Duffy shows up and goes, I'll take it from here.
Right. Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah, so this Duffy guy, again, is a Trump appointee, and he helped Trump carry out these illegal acts. So a quote from Mark Sandy, he said during the impeachment testimony, again, this was in the closed door hearing, it's being made public now. I just made a general reference to the Impoundment Control Act and said that we would have to assess that with the evidence of counsel before proceeding. Now, according to the Washington Post, ultimately, political appointee Mike Duffy took over the process of signing off on the documents that held up the Ukraine money. Sandy told impeachment investigators that until that time, Duffy had voiced no interest in the process of approving apportionments. So Sandy said that the other official, remember there were two who resigned, the other official who resigned in September expressed some frustrations about not understanding the reason for the hold. So while Trump and all his lackeys claim that they were holding up that money in an effort to root out corruption, just understand that that is complete and utter BS. That is not true at all. In fact, in getting rid of Marie Yovanovitch, who was the US ambassador to Ukraine at the time, they were actually doing something incredibly counterproductive in rooting out corruption in Ukraine, because she was actually working to fight corruption in Ukraine.
You know what, and what I will say to this is that a lot of the things that you've been hearing from the other side when we are talking about this impeachment hearings is that they point out the corruption of Biden and his son. And what you don't realize, some of you, is that most of us that are over here, we want all of the corruption out. But that does not undo the president's corruption, and we need to deal with it from the top coming down. But if we had our druthers, they would all be out of there, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, because the point is to get all of these negotiable, corrupt people out of our government so that we can have a better country and a better quality of life.
Totally.
So when don't hit me with the whataboutisms, because that too should go. That's the point of this.
And maybe that's how you handle it on Thanksgiving when you're sitting around the dinner table, is like, no, I'm for all the corruption. Let's list it, let's get rid of it.
It is incredible because Republican voters are still doing this like partisan game, thinking that everyone on the left thinks that way, that we're very cultish about our political party. No, we're not. There's nothing more empowering than being honest about the wrongdoing in your own party, right? So they bring up Biden and the fact that Hunter Biden was working on that Ukrainian gas board, right? Gas company board. Yeah, that was a problem. That was a problem. That doesn't change the fact that what Trump did, based on our Constitution, right, was wrong. It was illegal, and he should be removed from office as a result. Now, whether he'll be removed from office is, I mean, it's unlikely because of the fact that he has so many lackeys in the Senate. But it's unbelievable how, again, he could just take our Constitution, just crumple it up in front of us every single day, right? Whether it's the emoluments clause or what's happening right now with Ukraine. And his supporters will still claim time and time again that they love him because he protects the Constitution. They consider themselves constitutionalists.
And another talking point is how unfair this process is. Oh, it's so unfair. You see, even in that moment where Senator Kennedy of Louisiana was like, I was wrong about this thing that I talked about on Fox News. He's still saying like, I don't know, it's very frustrating because he's like, we're not allowed to give our side of the story is essentially it.
Yeah.
But all the people on that side have received subpoenas. And that subpoena's sole purpose is to get you to come into those open door hearings, give your side of the story, and actually provide that evidence that you say exists.
Yeah.
But what happened? We talked about Sandy, we talked about Duffy. Sandy answered the subpoena. The guy just like there going like, what are the rules? Let me follow them. You might hate the bureaucracy, but just the guy's like, let me follow the rules. He shows up and is like, yeah, I'll talk. Duffy, the political appointee, we don't have a picture of him from Getty Images. You know why? Because he defied the subpoena.
Yep.
And so did Mick Mulvaney, so is John Bolton, so is Don McGahn. All these people that they're crying don't get a chance to tell their evidence to the official record, they could do it. Even Donald Trump got an invite. Nadler just said, come on, buddy. And Trump's not gonna answer that.
Well, I mean, first of all, a guilty mind needs no accusing. And secondly, these people actually believe that their corruption is their right. And that's where what we're struggling with. We're not struggling with whether they think they're corrupt. We're struggling with the fact that they are feeling like, how dare you challenge my privilege and my ability to continue to do whatever I've been doing at the expense of you and question me for doing it. And they're not tripping on being corrupt.
Right.
They are appalled at our audacity to question it.
Corruption is like standard operating procedure for politicians, especially on the right, who have gotten away with things because you didn't have a Democratic Party that was willing to fight back. Now they're fighting back a little bit because one of their establishment types was targeted in this disgusting act that Trump is clearly guilty of, but they're not going after his financial crimes. They're not going after the fact that his own personal lawyer under oath said that Trump has committed fraud in an effort to obtain loans and then committed fraud in an effort to skirt taxes. They're not investigating that, right? Who cares about that? Anyway.
Because then they're next. If we get rid of them and get them out of there, then who's next?
Right.
Right? Because that's what we're coming for.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.